Hey guys, welcome back to Sarcastic Remarks. Along with Chris, my name is Ryan. We are the official Dallas Stars podcast of THPN. Thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook for being our sponsor of this episode, all of this podcast, and all of THPN, if I can get my words off correctly. And as always, we appreciate them for being our sponsor. Chris, how you doing?
Boy, howdy, that was a great game. After the first period. The first
Yes,
period was rough. After that, that looked like the Dallas Stars against the Arizona Coyotes, and I loved every second of it. It was fantastic.
I agree. It was a very great game tonight for the Dallas Stars. The first period I thought overall was okay for like the first 5 minutes. We got a lucky bounce, got a lucky goal, and then I don't know what happened. Arizona just decided to turn it on.
I think the goal was the worst thing that could have happened in the beginning of the game. Like, we scored the goal, and everyone's like, all right, let's go back into Chicago mode, put it in neutral, and coast down the hill. But like we talked about on Wednesday, the Coyotes are a kind of a good team. Like, they don't have a lot of talent, but they always play hard and they play very well. And that was really displayed in the first period. They looked good. Like, the Stars didn't look great, but the Coyotes looked good in the first period too. We'll give credit where it's due there.
By the way, we have a very lively chat session over here for a really, really early April Fool's Day, 12:24 a.m. at the time of this recording. And everybody is completely just bashing me in any way they possibly can right now. They're either talking about my green screen, which is still not working. I don't know why it won't work. It's something about the camera. It makes it super glitchy, so I don't use it. And
Go
then
buy
they're
some
also
more
saying,
sarcastic
"Oh,
remark stuff so we can get a better camera." Gosh.
yeah, there you go." That's it. And then they're also asking if I'm asleep. I'm like, dude, I'm always awake at this time, even during the weeknights. So
Ryan
I
is.
don't
That's
want to hear it.
facts. Ryan's a night owl. I think we're all night
Oh,
owls.
I'm a huge night owl. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, I've stayed up till 4 a.m. when I have to wake up at 6 to go to work the next day. It was not a smart idea, but I did it anyway, and I did it 2 nights in a row.
Smart.
Anyways, getting back to the stuff that people actually want to talk about. What were your initial thoughts coming out of this game? Because I mean, there's so many storylines that you could talk about with this game.
I mean, the first line is fantastic. And the first half of the season, the first line is the best line in the entirety of hockey. Now it's kind of like, yeah, you can make an argument for it still, obviously. But man, they showed it tonight. That was fantastic by the first line. They took control of the offense.
They were the offense for the longest time. And I mean, despite a couple of goals at the end there, Max Domi getting the empty netter. Hopefully he gets on the score sheet, by the way. Just random tangent there. But all three players played exactly the way we needed them to. And especially after a really rough first period, they said, guys, get on our backs, ride us, and we'll get you the win tonight in a game that we probably shouldn't have been down in after the first intermission.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you need that. And the Stars played very well in the defensive zone. Every single line played good in the defensive zone after the first period. But when you're struggling to score, sometimes you need your first line to just put you on their back. And that's exactly what they did. So fantastic job by them. And we've gone too far in the podcast without mentioning that Jason Robertson is now the Dallas Stars points leader. He's surpassed Mike Modano.
And he didn't just surpass him, but he did it by 2 points tonight.
Yeah, 4.9.
Yeah, he's just like, you know what? I'm tired of hearing about this. I'm 2 points behind him. Here's 4 points. Now I'm 2 points ahead of him. It's not even a question now. He's
done.
The undisputed champion of the points record right now.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, the dude has had a crazy year. I can't remember a single Stars player being as dominant as Jason Robertson has been. The one I can remember is Jamie on his Art Ross season, but that was kind of a little bit of a fluky year with how low all the scoring was. Jason Robertson has been the most consistent player and has been scoring the most points, and it's just insane. And the way he does it and the times he does it is crazy. Like Razor said, he is the clutch guy. He only scores important goals. That's the only time he scores. He saves them.
And I jumped out of my seat and just said, what a absolute freak of nature. And I actually scared Amanda when Robertson scored his goal there at the end of the second period. I'm like, that's ridiculous. I mean, he's 1v4 or 1v3 at that point. Yeah, you're not expecting a goal to go in when I mean he's in the high slot, but it's not like a super dangerous area. I mean, Vimoka could very easily see it. Vimoka had zero chance on that shot. I mean, it was an absolute perfect shot at the right moment to put us up a goal and completely change the direction of this team going into the second intermission.
Yep.
And I mean, like you said, Chris, I mean, he has another chromosome that most people don't have. He switches out one of his regular chromosomes for the clutch gene. He just got it, some that most people don't have. And that's something that has been more seen this year, I would argue, than either of his first 2 years.
Yep, for sure. I mean, he's definitely taking a step, and it's. uh, I said it was I said the wrong guy. I thought Rope Hintz was the guy who was going to have the breakout, and boy was I wrong. Here comes Jason Robertson. Fantastic. I'll take it. I mean, both of them have been fantastic this season. Yeah, the Robertson goes right after an amazing shot by Rope Hintz. Probably a better shot by Rope, honestly.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is about Robertson is that we didn't expect him to go for 100 points, which he absolutely can hit at this point. He can hit 100 points and be the first Dallas Star player to do so.
We're going to need him to for us to win the division.
Right. It seems that way. But we didn't expect him to have a quote unquote breakout season because the last 2 years he's broken out.
Breakout season.
Exactly.
He's one up in himself.
So it's definitely not exactly fair to say that he's a breakout candidate when you got all of these other players. We thought that Gary Arnold was going to possibly break out with a new offensive system. Unfortunately, that didn't work for him. But and the other thing about Robertson is that he's played for two extremely very different coaches, and yet he has still been able to be as dominant, if not more dominant, as he's gone through his very young career. He's only 23. So I'm really hoping that he can continue that. Now, I think the biggest question for him is he's made that next step in the regular season. Is he going to be able to do it in the playoffs? Ottinger did it for us last year. We saw that he's got the clutch gene in the goaltending position for the Dallas Stars. When we really, really need a goal, whether we play Minnesota, Colorado, or Winnipeg,
whoever,
is he going to be able to pull that goal out of his butt and say, Dallas Stars, here's the game-tying goal to put us to overtime to win game 6 and then force a game 7, or this is the goal to win game 7, or whatever, series clincher, anything. Is he going to be able to do that when he gets to the playoffs? And right now, I'm still a little hesitant to say that yes, he's 100%, but again, this is against the Phoenix. I keep saying Phoenix. I'm so used to Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes, but you can't not look at the game tonight and be excited that he absolutely might do it in the playoffs.
Yeah, you can't say that he's absolutely going to do it until he does it, I think. But last year he had a really good excuse. His line was the only scoring line. The only thing the Flames had to do was shut down the top line. And of course they're able to do that when that's your only game plan. But he's got no excuses now. He's got a full team. He's going to have good chances to score. And if not, then we're just going to roll over the team if they play the way the Flames played against us last season. So no excuses this year. He's got to step up, play well. All three of them do.
Speaking of the other two, we need to talk about them because they've got huge storylines surrounding personal stuff with them. Mr. Joe Pavelski is very close to 1,000 points. I believe at this point he's 2 points away, maybe 3 points away from 1,000. So that is a absolute huge milestone to even get there. So congratulations to him of even making it that far. And he continues to be one of the best players for the Dallas Stars in the month of March after a really, really awkward long goalless streak. I think it went 18 games without scoring a goal. And now he's arguably probably been the best, more consistent player through the month of March. And he's doing it all at the age of 38. It's absolutely ridiculous what he can do.
That's why we weren't worried about him at all during the scoring slump. Like, he might have been in a goal scoring slump, but he was scoring
He
points
was
like
yeah,
crazy.
he was still
So
getting assists.
we
Yeah,
were
right,
like,
exactly.
who cares? I mean, Babs doesn't have to score. He can do whatever he wants. As long as he's producing and his line is producing, we're happy. So obviously, that law of averages swings back around, and now Babs is going off.
And the thing that's awesome about him is that he understands he's not the same guy he was even 5 years ago when he was, like, really dominant for the San Jose Sharks. But he's just the thing that he's absolute best at, he's just really delved into that with the whole tipping thing, and then he just always seems like he's in the right spot at the right time. He doesn't need to be super fast. He's just, "Okay, I've got a guy who is ridiculous in speed. I've got another guy who's got an extremely high hockey IQ. If I stand here, more than likely I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be able to score a goal." And he's
Yeah.
just always in the right spot at the right time, it seems like.
Yeah, and we've definitely talked about this before, but that's the way that you become a successful veteran hockey player. I mean, the greatest example of that, Alexander Ovechkin, he played a crazy, just bouncing off the wall style of hockey his first 10 years in the league. I mean, scoring goals literally off of his back in his rookie year. Dude was nuts. He changes the way he plays, and he is the ultimate power play goal scorer now. He's got his own office that he sets up on a dot and blasts home shots. You can't play the same way the entirety of your hockey career if you want to stay in the league as long as Pavelski or Ovi have done. And him switching to being able to be the ultimate deflector and a great playmaker is why he's been so successful, because he still has all that hockey knowledge, and he has found a new niche to get into that he doesn't have to be insanely athletically and physically talented at as he was early on in his career. So that's really what impresses me about these veteran players, is that it's brain, body, and just developing new skills, continual learning within hockey. It's fantastic. It's super cool.
And with Ovi, everybody knows exactly what he's gonna do. It doesn't matter what you do. You could put somebody literally like right in front of him, and he's still gonna be able to get the same shot off, and you're just not gonna be able to stop it. It's ridiculous what he can do. And everybody mentions Ovechkin just because of he's one of the greatest players of all time. He's arguably the greatest goal scorer of all time, even if he doesn't pass Gretzky. But Pavelski does the exact same thing, just in a different facet of his game. And we don't talk enough about him just because this team is riddled with Jamie Benn, who's having a renaissance. Tyler Seguin is having a better season than he's had. Hintz and Robertson both are continuing to be a dominant force offensively. Meanwhile, you got Ottinger, who is looking really good. He's looking better. And we'll get a little bit into that here in a second. But then you've got Miro Heiskanen, who I still argue he's going to be the next captain of this team. It's not Robertson, it's
Yeah.
not Hens, it's Miro Heiskanen who will
That's
be
where
the
I was
next
going to go
captain.
next. If we're talking about people that we don't talk about enough, Miro Haskin has a 3-point night, 3 assists on the night. I think how many?
How often did you hear his name tonight?
Yeah, all the
Like,
time.
not very often.
No,
Not as
I
much
heard
as
it
the other
constantly.
guys.
I don't know about that. Every time I looked up and I saw someone make a good play with the puck, it was Miro Heiskanen. Maybe I was saying that in my head, but he was fantastic tonight. He always is. If you want to really talk about the consistent player, Miro Heiskanen is always consistent. We talk about how much of an influence he has on hockey games. But he's very close to setting the Dallas Stars record for points in a season by a defenseman. I don't know exactly where it's at. It's either 8 or 12, I want to say, for some reason. I don't know why, but he's behind Zubov there. He realistically could still get that this season. And we don't even think he's had a great offensive season just because he's not scoring goals, but he's getting all of the assists.
It's ridiculous. And I forgot who it was in the comment section I saw, but he is currently leading the NHL in the month of March in points getting. So it's just, I mean, he's doing it so quietly. It feels like he's not getting enough attention, just like Pavelski is not getting enough attention for what he does. And then let's talk about the final guy on this line, because there is a little bit of a dark cloud to this. I I don't feel like, well, let's just go ahead and talk about him. Hintz was absolutely fantastic. We talked about the third goal that Robertson had. That was a more clutch goal for the player. But Hentz's shot was just as good, if not better,
Yeah,
when he scored the second goal of the game there.
it was a better shot. That was one of the best shots of the season. I mean, corner, post, and bar, and goes right in. Fantastic shot. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, and I don't blame Vimilka for that one at all. I mean, it looked like he was in a harmless position. It wasn't like a prime area to score. It was literally just in the absolute perfect spot. I think if it had been a centimeter to the left, it would not have gone in. It would have just hit the post and gone out.
Yep.
So just absolutely ridiculous what Henson Robertson can do, and the fact that they're able to put the puck in those areas, and it seems like it's not dangerous at all or anything, and then they still are able to find a way to get it behind the goaltender.
Yep. Absolutely. Agreed.
So obviously, let's talk about the dark cloud for a second. Hintz gets high sticked there towards the end of the game, the last 10 minutes of the game. It's Soderstrom who gets the stick up in his eye area. It didn't look like it was in the eyeball. It looked like it was just above the eye on I think it was the left side. So I'm curious to see if he will be able to play tomorrow. I think he will be okay. That's my gut feeling, because he was able to go off on his own power. And I mean, especially in that game, I think it was at that point, it was a foregone conclusion that the Stars were going to win based off of the way they were playing. So maybe they just didn't bring him back out just for purely just being cautious.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's going to be fine, but it's definitely scary. I mean, if you get a cut on your eyeball, like who knows how long that'll take to heal? I have no idea. I've never heard of that. But it seemed like when he's skating off, like it's fine. But I mean, I don't know. There's no telling. I tried looking at Twitter just now. That's what I was scrolling through, and I couldn't find anything. But if you get stitches in your face, I mean, put
It
a
hurts.
mask on, and it hurts. Yeah,
It hurts a
it
lot.
hurts.
Yeah.
Put a mask on. Go out and go be the Colorado Avalanche, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and you would know what a high stick feels like above your eyebrow, right, Chris?
Yeah,
Wouldn't you?
it hurts.
Uh, Interesting story there. I was the one that actually high sticked Chris in the face a long time ago when we were little, when we were still at home. So, unfortunately, Chris knows that, and so does James. Actually, I think James got high sticked by, was it Tyler?
Yeah, I don't
Right
think he
when
remembers that though. He was like 3.
oh well, it was. I remember it. It was brutal. It was
It was a lot
brutal.
bloodier than mine.
Yeah, mom was freaking out. It was hilarious. Um. Anyways, so that's the top line in the game tonight, and each player had their own storylines to talk about, and just fantastic. But let's talk about a little bit of the defense. Okay. So before the game got good and got better in the second and third period, there were some really, really rough plays by some of the defensemen. And I'm sorry, Joel Hanley, that second goal was completely on Joel Hanley there. And just, it was not a good play. He was not getting a lot of help in his defense. But that's just, and it's unfortunate for him, because this is just going to spark up the whole debate over the Stars only have 5 defensemen, because Nils Lundqvist is not being trusted for whatever reason. We know that because he hasn't played but 2 games in the last 10, I think. And Hanley is not a player that should be in your top 6 all the time. He's great as a fill-in. He's absolutely great as a fill-in if he comes in for a game, if someone's sick or hurt or whatever. But I mean, it's just going to pull up this whole thing again. Everyone's going to talk about it. And the Stars just don't seem to have a solution for this problem right now.
I'm just really confused by the whole situation. Like I thought when we got Lundqvist, the point was we're going to play him, and if we're not going to play him, then we should send him to the AHL. And now we are consistently not playing him. Just before the season started, he played the previous 50 games, the first 50 games of the season. Lundqvist is in there, game in, game out. So I really don't understand what the issue is. I know that one game he came back and he made a stupid mistake right off the bat. Okay, Hanley did the same thing here, and he still played the whole game. So it's really honestly frustrating because, like you said, we are down to 5 defensemen now. If they're just not going to play Lundqvist and they're refusing to, Hanley obviously is a step down from all 5 of them the majority of the time. So we're at a loss there. I mean, it makes it, and what's really annoying is it wasn't as big of an issue before the trade deadline. Like, if you realize this is an issue before the trade deadline, we're not going to go into the playoffs with 5 defensemen. But
Well,
you don't realize that until after. You don't decide that that's a problem until after the fact. It just seems silly.
I would argue that we've seen this problem before the trade deadline. Maybe not as egregious. Maybe we're just looking for it more. And now that I don't know what the deal is with Nils Lundkvist. It's like
It's not Nils Lundkvist.
he,
They're just not playing him.
but I
If
mean
they were playing him and he was
they've
playing
got to
bad, I
have
would agree. But
they've got to have a reason though, Chris. They've got to have a reason. And I mean, there was the one game he played what 2 minutes and 39 seconds, and they literally just played the other 6 the entire game.
yep.
So I don't know. It just
I think it's poor management, honestly, at this point. Poor management of the team. I mean,
so you
I
think this is a DeBoer issue then,
yeah.
or
I
the
don't
the assistant coach that runs the defense,
Whoever's making the call to put
Nazardine?
Hanley in, which is probably DeBoer, I think it's the wrong decision. I don't think Hanley is giving you any more confidence or trust or capability that Lundqvist wouldn't give you. Plus, Lundqvist gives you the advantage of at least being able to do something in the offensive zone. It's really quite frustrating. I don't understand it.
And while we're talking about defensemen, I thought Hakanpää had a really good game tonight. There was one particular play. Actually, there were several times that I wrote, and it was defensive plays in the second period. There was one at 15 and a half minutes remaining that he had a really good stick in the defensive zone, and it would have been a really bad odd man rush going towards Ottinger. And then there is I was actually really excited for this play. About 10 minutes remaining, that he had a opportunity where he could have tried to pinch at the blue line in the offensive zone, and he made the right decision. He didn't. He backed off, and then he completely cleaned the guy out in the defensive zone and immediately went the other direction.
Yep.
I mean, just excellent, excellent play. So I think Hakanpää has played well this year, but he just makes a lot of errors that, like, say someone like Mira Heiskanen does not play like. It does not make.
Because he'll play great games and he'll play 23 minutes that night. And then in bad games, he'll play 12. So, and I especially like tonight him throwing the body a lot more. I mean, that's what you really want to see a lot of in the playoffs is wear the team down a little bit. He's the guy that's going to do it. He's the biggest one out there.
And he did play 17 minutes, 23 seconds tonight. So that's pretty decent. That's actually very decent for him. I mean, everybody had very good ice time. So I'll disagree with you a little bit on the management. Maybe on that side, you can make an argument about having Hanley in instead of Lundqvist.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I'm not upset about ice time at all.
Yeah, as far as time on ice, the way that he divvied this up tonight was perfect. Yeah. Knowing that you're going to have to play a much tougher team tomorrow in less than 24 hours. So
I'm not upset with time
great.
on ice at all.
Yeah, so good for him. A couple of lineups decisions here. First off, for tomorrow, do we see Nils Lundqvist come back into the lineup? Because I think after that goal, that and especially because it's the second game of a back-to-back, and a little bit of youthful energy, I think could really help. If I was making the decision, I'd give him a chance. And I know it's Colorado. But give him sheltered minutes, and if he's really that bad, don't let him touch the ice. But Hanley has shown you, especially in today's game, that he gave up a really bad turnover and it led to a goal. Now, thankfully, the top line did freaking amazing things tonight and saved their butts. But I mean, I don't know. What do you think is going to happen? Well, first off, what would you do? And then second, what do you think DeBoer is actually going to do?
There's a better question. I agree with you. I think Lundqvist should go in. I stayed kind of consistent with that. I feel like I always think putting in fresh guys on the second night of a back-to-back is a good thing. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think if we're this late in the season, Lundqvist is still getting played very sparingly, and we're probably at the biggest game of the remainder of our schedule, at least like opponent-wise, plus what's going on. I am fairly sure that the lineup's going to be the exact same tomorrow night.
And then there was one other lineup change that DeBoer made in the middle of the game They very briefly mentioned it, but I don't know how you thought about it. I thought it was okay. I didn't see a huge difference, but they did flip flop Foxa and Delandria. So Foxa goes down to the fourth line, and Delandria goes and plays with Domi and Sagan. And I thought there was not a whole bunch of synergy when it came to that, but I just feel like Foxa plays so much better with Glendening down on the fourth line than he does being asked to kind of fill a, I don't want to say an offensive role because he kind of still does his defensive thing, but he fulfills his role a lot better when he's playing with Glendening, especially.
I think it was better. They had more chances in the second half of the game, but also the Stars were just playing better in the second half of the game. So
So
kind
it's
of take
kind of
that with
hard to tell. Right.
exactly. Kind of take that with a grain of salt. But really, what you really need is you need Marchment back. I mean, he brings such a big difference to that line, just size, speed, physicality. I mean, that's what you really want playing with Domi and Sagan, who are a little bit more fluid, watery guys.
Okay, perfect segue to kind of talk about two players. Let's talk about Marchment. Marchment, there's not much news on him that I have heard, Chris. The expectation is still that he will probably play the last couple of games before the playoffs. That seems to be the general idea that we've seen from DeBoer and from other players in the locker room. So that's still going on. But the biggest news on the injury front, Wedgwood seems to be making his return very, very soon, and it may be even as early as Monday. So that will be very exciting to see Wedgwood. One, because we need a lot of help in the goaltending department, and it will be very good because Otter will be able to feel like he can actually relax, even though he may not be playing a game when Matt Murray's in the net. So
Yep.
he is currently down in the AHL with the Texas Stars. Apparently he did very well in a 2-1 overtime loss tonight.
Almost stole it.
Almost stole it for the Texas Stars. So we're hoping that continues, that conditioning stint goes well, and then he's able to join the team on Monday. So what do you think about all of that injury front news, Chris?
Yep. Very good. I mean, ideally, we win the Colorado game, and then we can go Wedgwood Otter the remainder of the season. And I think that would give Otter a good break before we ride him into the ground for the entirety of April and May.
Right, exactly. And fingers crossed, hopefully June if it gets to that point.
Yes.
So, and then let's talk about we talked about the top line. We talked about the so the forecheck. Let's talk about the Dallas forecheck for a little bit. It was very good in like the first 4 minutes, and then for the rest of the first period, it was like almost non-existent. And then when the first line really got it going in the second period, especially with that first goal, I don't think it ever let up after that in the second and third period. And I was happy and frustrated at the same time. So let me explain. I was very happy that they were doing it against an Arizona club that they should be beating. They should be beating. And Arizona has played well at home. They're like 2012 and like I think 4, which is a very good record for a team that will not make the playoffs. But what I'm really frustrated about is why can't they do this on a consistent basis against the very good teams? Because that is something that has been different about this team under DeBoer compared to Bonus. Bonus was all about, counterattacking, taking those opportunities when you can get them. DeBoer style has very much been about get the puck in, cycle it, really kind of force turnovers and get pressure in the offensive zone. And they did that absolutely excellently in the second and third period. And
I,
I mean, if they do that every single game, it reminds me a lot of what the Carolina Hurricanes do, especially when they play against the Stars.
I,
I mean, it's just constant, relentless forecheck. And so does all of that make sense?
I think that has a lot more to do with the Coyotes not being fantastic. Um, it looked extremely good. I agree with you. It looked fantastic, especially in the third period. The Coyotes couldn't go anywhere. But if you watch the plays, the Coyotes defensemen were making some pretty terrible plays too. So I'll agree with you. It doesn't always look this good. I think part of that is just because of the skill level of the competition. But it also has to do with your mentality. I mean, like I said in the first period, we scored that goal and we were like, easy peasy, neutral, stop pressuring as hard. But we got back to it in the second and third period, and it looked like the game we thought it was going to be for all three. So I think it's just going to be a mentality thing, and it's a lot easier to stay in that mentality when you were playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So I want to talk about two more things, and then we'll wrap it up here tonight because we're already past 30 minutes. But the first one is that the Stars are first in the NHL with wins by 3 or more goals, and it's by a considerable margin. They've got 24 wins when they do that. Now, on the flip side of that, they've got one of the worst winning percentages when it comes to 1-goal games. Now, a lot of that probably has to do with losing in overtime. I'm not sure if shootout counts towards that. I don't think it
I have
does, but
no idea.
I have
Yeah.
no idea. So Ardell, maybe you can educate me and Chris on that. But the thing that concerns me about this team going into the playoffs is that a lot of these games in the playoffs are not going to be won by 3 or more goals. There may be the occasional blowout game, but most of these games are going to be by 1 or 2 goals. Now, the side argument to that is that the Stars have been losing a lot of overtime games when it's 3-on-3. In playoffs, you don't do 3-on-3, so you don't have to worry about that. But that pressure in the playoffs in overtime is still very similar to the pressure that you feel in overtime when it's 3-on-3. It's not the same. I saw your face. It's not the same, but that pressure is still there. So are the Stars going to be able to handle the pressure when we get to that point? And I would argue you have no idea because we really don't know.
We don't know. But I'm going to disagree with it's even a similar pressure because I don't think it is. I mean, 3-on-3 overtime in the regular season, you're only going to do it for 5 minutes. You know it's a limited amount of time. Only your best players are going to play. If you're one of the best players, you're going to be playing a lot and you're going to be really tired during it. I think it's a totally different animal. I mean, you're still playing hockey when you're in the playoffs. It might be overtime, but you're still playing hockey. It's the same game. And the Stars are a lot better at that than other teams. Back to the 1-goal game stat, that I think is a very skewed stat for Dallas. First of all, because of the 3-on-3 overtimes, but then also we score a lot of empty net goals. Like we score another one tonight. I'd like to see how many empty net goals that we've scored to get us away from winning games by 1 goal.
That's an interesting stat. That's a very good. Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think that stat is definitely a little bit skewed, and we have seen the Stars do some crazy clutch things. I mean, coming from behind, like this is the team that I've seen for Dallas that is never out of it. Like there's never been a team that I felt like always has a chance, no matter what. Even the Vancouver game, the one that we went to, third period was going terrible. It sucked, and I was like, okay, whatever. We'll just wait till it gets 6-on-5 and we still have a chance to win the game. Like that's how confident I am that this team can just go and score goals because they've shown it so many times. So I don't buy that we're not confident. I don't buy that we're not clutch. We see clutch and confident stuff from this team all the time. I think we're going to see that in the playoffs. And we've got at least our most important player has already proved that he's going to do that. The goaltender, Jake Ottinger. So I'm not super worried about it. I'm just excited to see how the team plays.
Sorry, things keep popping up into my head. There was an argument about who was going to start this game, and a lot of people, including myself, expected to see Matt Murray in this game tonight. We did not. So Jake Ottinger did start this game tonight, and what I loved that they did, especially in the second and third period, is they did not leave Ottinger out to dry.
Yep.
I think at one point, with like 4 or 5 minutes remaining, the Vancouver Canucks, the Arizona Coyotes only had 14 shots. 14. When you have a back-to-back and you know you're playing against Colorado, that is exactly what you want to do. There was a little bit of helter-skelter there at the end, but that's the last 2 minutes of the game with the goalie pulled. That's fine.
They finished the game with only 17 shots. The only big saves that Ottinger made in the second and third period was on the 6-on-5. And he made 2, I think. And he was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And because I'm going to give in to chat's stereotype about me, even though I already know the answer to this question, Ardell, I saw that earlier at the beginning, but while the countdown was going on, who starts the game tomorrow, Chris?
Jake Ottinger.
Okay, I shouldn't have even had to ask that question. Matt Murray will not see a game for the rest of the season.
But what Jake Ottinger starting this tells me is that DeBoer is fully bought in now to Jake Ottinger playing until we win the division. or until Wedgwood comes back potentially. I don't know how that might change things, but the I think the Vancouver loss, while it's not Matt Murray's fault at all. I mean, the team played terribly. I think that kind of flipped the switch and he was like, okay, nope, we need to get back in first, and we're gonna do that with Jake Ottinger.
Yep. Yeah, and thank you, Ardell. I love you too. It's okay. And then finally, that this is the last. It's amazing that we gotten this far without talking about it, but it's a big milestone for a player that's overlooked just because of what he does. Congratulations to Luke Glendening getting his 700th career game tonight. He's a fantastic player, and everything that he does is exactly what this team needs. He is a absolute fantastic face-off man. He is always the guy that is willing to block a shot, and then each time, he's got to be one of the favorites on that team. And he's a great veteran. He does everything right that you would expect out of a professional hockey player, and he is going to be one of those guys. If we win the cup this year, and we look back, he's going to be one of those players that I'm going to look on very, very fondly. And even if we don't win a cup, I'll take that back. Even if we don't win a cup, I will look on his time in a Dallas Stars sweater very fondly because of what he's done. So congratulations to Luke Glendening, his 700th career game in the NHL. A lot of people don't get there.
Yep, you can definitely be seen as one of those grinders if we get our name on the cup.
It's fun. I feel good about this game, but again, it's just Arizona, man. It's just Arizona. We got Colorado tomorrow, 8:00 start time, and we are really looking forward to that game. The Stars will be facing against a club who is going to be extremely pissed off after losing to the Minnesota Wild in their last game, and they've had 2 days off. So we are going to be heavily relying on Ottinger in tomorrow's game, I feel like. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
He's going to have to be our best player.
This is the biggest game for the remainder of the season. I mean, if you really want to win the division, if you decided that's what we're going to do, you have to get this one. You have to get it.
We got the games that we should have won. Now we need the game that we really
find a
need.
way to win the game that you shouldn't win. That's how you're going to win the division.
Yes. And I'll just say it now. I'm not going to be mad if we lose tomorrow night.
I'm not wouldn't be either. I would be pissed off if we don't show up. If we do classic Dallas Stars, and we're like, oh, build up the game and then lay an egg. That would piss me off. But if we show up and we play hard and we play good, I'll be happy.
All right, guys. It's been late, but we had a lot to talk about in today's game. There was a whole lot to talk about.
So many milestones. Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
It's I mean, records broken.
They all happened at once.
Yeah, Luke Glendening. I mean, Wedgwood. Everything is happening all at once, it seems like. So it's excellent.
It's great. It's so fun.
It's so fun.
I love hockey.
This is like, I can feel it. That playoff atmosphere is coming, man. Let's go. So, anyways, please go and check out StarcastCircleMarks.com. That's our website. Chris, again, I'll mention it for the last time. We had our live episode at the American Airlines Center last Saturday. He wrote a really good blog post on it. It's excellent. I highly suggest you go and read it. And side note, congratulations to defending Big D, going, completely solo after they lost their funding. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Taylor and her group and her staff can do. Uri is also on the staff there, so shout out to Uri. Excited to see how he does with Taylor as well, and can't wait to see what kind of content they throw out. It's one of the best writing article groups for Dallas Stars hockey. So go and check them out. Give them all the love. And if you can subscribe, do it. I did today. So, I mean, they need the money. They can use it. Let's keep our Dallas Stars content going. And thanks once again to DraftKings Sportsbook for being our sponsor of this episode, this podcast, and all of THPN. Along with Chris, my name is Ryan. We'll see you guys tomorrow night when the Stars take on the Colorado Avalanche. And we hope you guys have a good, fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you guys are listening. Chris, take us out.
Great job in Arizona, Stars fans that were there. GG, boys.
See you guys later.